Good morning. How are you guys doing? I'm just waiting for, I see Kethy just joined. Hey, Kethy. Let me see if I can get her to come on. Oh no, hang on. How's this working? Kethy, I don't know if you've requested to come on yet. So, oh yeah, there we go.
Oops.
Hey, girl.
Ah,
How are you?
good.
So let me do
Just
this. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry. I forgot to hit screen record just in case something goes wrong and Instagram doesn't save this. So it keeps flipping back and forth. Like I
oh,
see
does
yours.
it? Okay,
Yeah, yeah. I
because
see yours and I
I
see
don't
yours.
see myself. So where is it facing now? Because I
So
think it's facing.
you can't see yourself at all.
Oh, really?
No, no, I'm asking if you can't see
No,
yourself.
I can't.
So I'm gonna take you out and then request to come back in, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Let's see if this works. I might have to restart this live, just depending on what happens. So Kethy, if you're on there, yeah, there we go. Request to come on. All right. I can still see I'm seeing your living room, so I'm not sure what's
Okay,
going on.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
flip it once, and if I don't see myself, that's fine. I'll just assume that it's right.
So can you see me though?
I can, so that's fine.
So how does it look? It's not a split screen on yours?
It's now that I'm realizing just how difficult live IGs can be.
I know, right? I know.
Um,
Yeah, no,
So all of a
I have you
sudden,
on a split screen. I don't want it to be like awkward because normally you're supposed to see me at the top of your screen. Um,
yeah, I see
yeah,
you. I don't. Do you
and
see me? If as you?
yeah, you're just the way it always is live, and it's on your phone,
Perfect.
right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So
All right. All right. So how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's bright and sunny outside. I have lots of ambition to do things outside.
I know,
We'll see if
right?
they actually happen. Thanks, Heather. Thanks for
Hey.
Heather. Don't see the yogi. She can see us both. Yay! So there's hope.
So I know it's already like 11:05. I'll give it a couple more minutes. But I just want let's start talking about um, like what this is going to be about today.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of start the story. I was supposed to go live, like I'd asked you to come live with me during the Share the Mic takeover on Sean Corn's page. And it was, like I was so excited about it because, like, to be quite honest, when you are in a sea of people that you don't know, it's always nice to have a familiar face there.
Always.
And
Uh-huh.
and so much. And one of the reasons why I asked you to come on with me was because you have already been speaking out about the issues in terms of diversity within the yoga industry for a little while now. And I was like, well, Kethy has all the facts, and I know that
The fact.
I know, like if I mess up, she's gonna come in and like set it straight. But
Or at least I'll give, at the very least, I'll give my
yes, like
my very honest and opinion based on what I see
yes.
around.
But then last minute, we were told it was just, like the Share the Mic Now event was going to be contained to, like just the women on, who had been chosen and who had already, because, they didn't know the people I was bringing in.
Hmm.
So they were going to keep it to people that they had spoken to. And the organizers all knew us individually, like from working with us previously or personally. They all knew us. So they kind of said for the first event, in order to make sure it went well, they just wanted to make sure that we were coming on with people
Yeah.
that they had already spoken to. So, but I really wanted, because you shared so much good information over the years that I really want to, I really want people to hear what you have to say, because I do think it's like so, like everybody should be hearing it. And you say it so well
Yeah.
too. And
Thank you.
for anybody who doesn't know Kethy, Kethy is my childhood friend. We are both Cameroonian. We grew up, we went to primary school together. Um, and I guess we found each other again in adulthood. And you live in Canada now. I live in Atlanta. Well, Canada and Atlanta is a city. So what city are you in? I don't want to say.
So, um, my name is Kethy, for whoever doesn't know me. I'm one of Alexa's childhood friends. I live in Gatineau, Canada, which is the Quebec side of,
Yes.
of Canada, but we're so close to Ottawa, which is the capital, that I essentially just say I'm from Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in terms of what it is, Alexa has given a bit of background of why we're having this talk in terms of, well, it was set up to be part of the share the mic. It could not. But as she said, I and several other Black yogis in Ottawa have been talking about this for quite some time. And in light of the current momentum, in light of the protests, the current discussions to support Black lives, this has come up again. And I did a video about it, but I'm really glad to be able to do it live because, you do a video and you're trying to keep it short because, you don't want to go on on a 1,000-year rant on things. And sometimes just having this discussion enables you to say the things that you might have missed at any other point. So I'm a yoga teacher here. I'm a yoga student and a yoga teacher here in the Ottawa-Gatineau region. I've been a student since 2013, and I've been a teacher for the last 2 years now. I think 2 years or heading towards 3, I think. Can't remember. It's quarantine, everything is a blur. But
I know it's funny because quarantine is kind of lifting in Georgia, so slowly, schedules are going back for a lot, not everybody, for a lot of people. I guess travel is the one thing that's still really affected.
yeah.
But I know what days of the week it is now because I have to be places on other days.
See, I know what days of the week, but I don't know what date. So
Yeah,
there's a difference. I'm very clear about
right. I know.
starting on Monday.
Yeah,
But yeah.
on that note, I wish I was still quarantined to a certain extent. I remember in quarantine, I
Oh.
told myself I wasn't going to go back to certain level of,
Mm,
like rushing around, and I can see that's already starting to come back. Even as I try to resist it, I'm out every day and, driving from one studio to the next. Um,
mm,
anyway, I won't go on about that too much. I want to kind of let's start on the because like I said, you've spoken about issues with diversity and inclusion for a little while now, and you've mentioned for years that you're often the only Black student in the studio, and
mhm.
one of the questions that came up during Share the Mic Now was a lot of studio owners, I guess, they have good intentions. They don't want their studios to be all white. However, it keeps staying all white. So how like I guess this discussion is to kind of maybe start to touch upon some of the issues as to why studios are all white or
Yeah.
why they have a diversity issue,
Mm.
um, and also what are the things that in your opinion are easy steps to take to start changing changing that all
That
whiteness of the
dynamic,
studio.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been pushed or encouraged rather to share this specific story, and the reason why I'm sharing it is because it actually is relevant to your question. Um, I volunteered at a specific studio for about 2 years at some point. There's
Mm-hmm.
such a thing called the Energy Exchange Program, where you volunteer in exchange for free yoga. So, you spend time at the studio helping to clean, helping to, with XYZ tasks around the studio in exchange for free yoga. And these programs, at least in my opinion, are great. Now, at the time, had been volunteering for 2 years, and then a paid position came up. A paid
Mm-hmm.
position at front desk came up, and I applied for it. And quite honestly, all the staff that knew me was, 100% convinced that it was mine. It's the equivalent of, well,
Yes.
gosh, you've been here for 2 years.
Mhm.
Of course it's yours. I mean, all the clients know you. All the teachers know you. We see your dedication to the studio. I mean, that was literally my home away from home. You know what I mean? So, um, I go for 3 interviews for front desk at a yoga
Yes.
studio. And later on, I get told that I didn't get the job. Now, I'm not necessarily one to be bitter about not getting a job, but I was very bitter about why I didn't get the job because I asked.
Hmm.
And I say, okay, why didn't I get the job? And they tell me I didn't get the job because I'm too intimidating. Um, that just brings about just so many things. No, no, exactly that face, that face. And admittedly, these are the kind of, this is a specific story that I tell every single time somebody asks me, well, have you ever not gotten a job because you were Black? And I'm convinced that that's exactly what it was. And I'll tell you why. Because again, at that specific studio, and at most studios, to be quite honest, I usually am the only Black client. I usually am either the only one or, it's one of, you're one of 3. And when you see that other person, even though you don't know them, you immediately feel like,
Hmm.
fist bumping them like, oh gosh, here I see you, thank goodness you're here and all whatnot. So I was the only one, meaning that their 99% white or white passing clientele was supposedly not going to find a woman, a tall Black woman with my afro was, my afro was just about as short as you.
Yes.
And I remember at the time, a Black friend had told me that it made me look too, I quote, power to the people. So what I'm saying is, if a Black friend at the time, who has since changed her mind, but if a Black friend at the time could think that way,
Yeah. Yeah.
I could not help but say, well, they also must think that way. Another problem with not hiring me at the time is that they were okay with me being a volunteer in the
And
back
cleaning. And cleaning.
and cleaning and
Yeah.
helping and whatnot, but somehow coming to the front, and it's now that my cats decide to have a fight. But somehow being at the front was too much for their white clients. And so going back to your question, the one thing that really would help and is representation, and that representation starts off with your staff.
Hmm. Well, I think,
If you walk in somewhere and you see someone that looks like you automatically think, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, if she's here, if he's here, if they're here, I could definitely be here. It's just you see there's a familiarity, especially for Black folks that are in spaces that are predominantly white. You try as you may, but as soon as you see another Black person, you immediately feel that, oh gosh, thank goodness they're here type of connection. Where okay, you don't have to be friends,
hmm,
you don't have to be friends, but there's that immediate, oh God, thank goodness it's someone else.
yeah.
It's a similar feeling to when you go to an event and you go to an event and it's all men and you find that one woman and you know that you don't have to impose your person on her,
Hmm.
you're going to stick with her the whole evening, but somehow both of you know,
You're safer together.
yes, you're
Like
safer
there's,
together, you're
yes.
better together, you have
Hmm.
something in common, you can bond over this. And whether or not it leads into a lifetime friendship, who knows? But there's this immediate bond, this immediate feeling of, oof, I found someone that's like me. And
The funny part is that, so in my experience, I don't actually even, I'm usually, I'm not saying that I don't become friends with them, but 90% of the time, I have this awareness. I know exactly where they are in the room.
yes,
Um,
yes,
but I'm not friends with them, like outside of the
no,
studio,
that's
because
fine.
we don't always have things in common. But while we're in that
Absolutely.
room, while we're inside that room, I know exactly which side of the room you're
Yeah,
on. And my eye keeps like, like,
yes.
are you still there? I hope you're not leaving.
Yeah, I walk into change rooms and
Yeah.
like, I mean, seriously, it happens every single time. It's just, and I'm speaking for that specific studio, not because I'm bashing them, but mostly because I really had like a good 4 years over there. And so it was a great experience for me. But in that greatness, there was also that moment when you're in the change room, you're getting ready for that class, and you turn around and there's a black chick there, and you go, and you don't talk to
Yeah.
her because what do you have to say? But
Yeah.
there's this immediate, and yeah, and then she goes into the room, she goes and puts her mat somewhere, and you do have this,
Mhm.
I know where she is. We were more than two, and so it's a
Yeah.
great feeling. At the same time, when you look at it, if you look at it in another perspective, it's really sad to have to say this. At the time it was, let's say, 2013, 2015, where in 2020 it still happens. It's really
Yeah.
sad that I went to the studio, and in 2020 my source of joy is seeing that one other black person, be it man, woman, or whatever, whatever gender. It's just
Hmm.
it's disconcerting to have
And
to
it, and
feel that.
I feel like, I mean, even though, like, like you said, in any space where, like, if you're a woman and you go into a space full of men and you see another woman, you seek them out. I have to say that I feel like it's even more so in 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 the U.S. Because I mean, I've lived in England before, where I lived in London, where it's a brownish community. Like, it's a very London is just a melting pot of everybody
Mm,
from everywhere in the world. And I remember in London, there were times when I would be in spaces that were majority white, and like a black person would walk in, and I would acknowledge them, but it's not quite the same sense as moving to the US, because like, I don't know what it is about, like, white people in the US. You never know if they are, and like, if they're on your side. Whereas I feel like in Europe, um, maybe amongst, like, the older population, you still have really conservative people who have really strong opinions. But I
mm,
know for sure, like, amongst people that were my age at the time, I mean, this is like 10 years ago, amongst like the white people who were my age at the time, people already then, they would never have just looked side. And I'm not saying that there are not racial issues in England,
yeah.
but they're very different than here. And I feel like this is the one place where I have felt like there is the possibility that you come from a family of people who are ready to murder, black people. So you might not have those strong opinions.
Hmm.
However, your grandfather might have them, and you're not speaking up about them. You're not trying to change his opinions. You're just saying that's how he is. Whereas I feel like when you get to, like, when you're in Europe, I feel like there's people who dislike, like, other people, and their dislike is not limited to black people. Their dislike is, like, just generally anybody who's not from their country.
Yeah.
They generally have, like, well, this is how we do things in Germany, or how we do things in France, and you need to do them this way. But they don't have that feeling of, I want to kneel on your neck, and I'm not going to get off if you're yelling. And I'm speaking generally of this was my
Yeah,
experience.
your experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was I'm not, and like I said, I'm not saying that there's no issues in Europe, but
No,
I
no,
definitely,
no. I
I
get it.
definitely did not hear about, like, I mean, you hear about harassment, and you hear about, people generally not being, um, like, there are racist incidents. I'm not going to say that there's no racism in Europe, because there are
Yeah.
incidents for sure. However, I don't think I heard a black man being shot, or choked, or murdered by the police in the whole time that I lived in England. And
Yeah.
no, and when things did happen, people would say they were not okay. They wouldn't say, well, maybe he was a.
So here's where our opinions differ, and again, based
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
experience, and that's exactly why we're having this talk. I'm willing to say that all these things do happen in Europe, and in the very same things happen in Europe. It's just
Hmm.
that they don't necessarily make the news the same way. I recently had a discussion with a
Mm-hmm.
fellow yogi, if I'm not making, well, no, I'm not willing to say where she's from, but what she had said was she put up the news of something that had happened in Bangladesh, where she
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
mentioned that there had been riots in Bangladesh and
Mm-hmm.
nobody talked about it. And I thought, oh my gosh, and talking about she did this last week,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, why do I not know about these riots? So I go check, and
Yeah.
it turns out an article from 2018. So then she and I have a little bit back and forth saying, well, I understand that, you're upset that everybody doesn't know what's happening in XYZ other country, but, that was from 2018. And she says,
Mm-hmm.
yes, the fact that we not so much glamorize, but the fact that everything that happens in the US it's just put at such a at such a high scale, it's so much visibility that anything else that happens anywhere else doesn't get that visibility. And I said to her, well, it's true, it's unfortunate, it is unfortunate that everything that happens in other countries, be it what happens in Europe, to Europe as a continent, or what
Yeah.
happens in the continent doesn't get the same limelight. But it is what it is, and let's work towards making this better. So
Yeah.
to to point out what you said about your lived experience in England, I
Mm-hmm.
think now is with this current movement, what's happening is that in France there are a lot of
Yeah.
police, at least a lot of police brutality cases from back when that
Mm-hmm.
are coming up, that are
Someone
resurfacing,
here says
and
oppression Olympics comparing our anti-oppression movements.
seriously. And
So,
so, there's a lot of things coming up and coming to
mhm,
light because the US and
mhm.
because of what, the shock that everybody has had over
Yes,
uh, George Floyd's killing. And even in that, his I'm not undermining what has happened to the man, but his might not even have been the most traumatic. It just so happens that we were all looking and we had
yes,
nowhere else to look because we're all
yes,
stuck at home. And
yes.
so what's happening is that everybody saw it, every country saw it.
Mhm.
People are outraged, people are tired, not only tired
Yes.
because of the actual
Mhm.
anti-black racism, but mostly tired because they're home, because there's the stress of the stress
Mhm.
of getting sick, the stress of not having a job, the stress of having a job that forces you to work in conditions that are not right, and so et cetera, et cetera. And so there's this revolt that's happened.
Mhm.
I guess with the premise that George Floyd has, was
Mhm.
brutally murdered. But these are things that have been going on and that are going on everywhere. It's just that exactly like Will Smith says, it's being filmed.
Yep, yep.
That's what's happening. In spite of being filmed, even some of those things are not given justice. So my
Yes.
personal experience has
I
not
think that
been
I think that's
has
what you
not
said
been
is important, like not giving justice when things happen.
yes, so my
Yes.
experience has not been one of I haven't been brutalized by police, but when I see it happening to others, you and I cannot deny that it really seems to be the predicament of our people.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
No, no, absolutely. And I'm not going to deny that at all. And that's not, my point is not to say that, like, I want to retract. Like, I don't want to say that things don't happen, right? Because things do happen.
They
Um,
do. They just don't
they,
get to
they
the
do,
media.
they absolutely do happen everywhere. And in everywhere that I've lived, Black people do face, like Black people do face, um, prejudice, they do face racism. I'm not saying like I'm not in any way saying that racism doesn't, like, it's not happening to my
Yeah, yeah,
Black
no, I know.
sisters in Europe, because I mean my brothers still live there, so they also live it. Um, I find what is different for me here. So this is where I say, like, for me in the
Right.
US, it is more threatening. There's something, and I don't know if it's the same in
Yes,
Canada.
an
Yes,
immediate.
it is more threatening here because whereas, like, you might get beaten as a Black person. Here people are just, they're just getting executed, like literally just getting executed. um, and no one's doing, like you said, there's no justice for people who are executing. And then people want to kind of just brush over it and say it didn't happen. So while certain things are not making the media in Europe, I feel like when they do, people don't pretend that, well, again, this is like my
Can you
experience.
experience
Yeah, yeah,
that?
absolutely. Like
Say that
there's
when
there's there's a huh?
it's just no, I'm just saying when I look at the news in
Yes,
France, essentially just
yes. And I
they're
haven't lived in France, to be fair, so
yeah,
that's
no,
France has its own problems.
yeah, I know
Um,
everybody has their problem,
yeah.
and again,
Hmm.
the Canadian problem here is
Hey,
that
Manu.
the
But
Canadian problem.
I don't want to divert too much
Yeah,
from like also like issues at studios,
yoga.
because I know like we can go on,
We could go on.
yeah, go on and go on about all the issues that are going on, like around the world, and the discussion is never over, right? But I think the agreement generally here in the discussion that we're having is that there is an issue of representation at studios,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of
And
times I will hear,
I hear you make. I'll mention it.
yeah.
We'll talk
So
about
yeah, I see the comment there too. So do you see that comment from
it. I
Mindfulness
do.
Connect? Is that the one? Yes. Um, and so here's what I see. So you have a studio and it's all white and it kind of stays all white. And then you might have a black instructor who comes in. Like
Mm-hmm.
I see this with me all the time, right? Like when I come in as the only black instructor,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, and it's not at every studio that I work at, but in quite a few, all of a sudden you start to have black people or brown people come to class. Like you start to have them like arriving. So it's not that they're not interested in coming, they just don't feel safe in that space. And I was going to talk a little bit about how let's say, I mean, I don't know how you wouldn't be able to find a black instructor in 2020, but let's say you
Mm-hmm.
live in I'm trying to think of a place where there's no black people, but
We are
because like
everywhere.
yeah, we're everywhere. But sometimes, studio owners are like, well, no, nobody has applied at my studio, who is, no black people have applied at my studio.
Yeah.
So I would like to hire, I just haven't had anybody come to, come. And I'm like, well, that's a problem in itself. If nobody's coming to your studio, it's probably because they look at it and they wouldn't feel comfortable working at your studio.
Yeah.
But if that is the case, even if you don't have instructors like black or brown instructors, how can you still be an inviting space to black people or black and brown people? And I feel like I know that there's clear differences at some of the studios that I work at, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I'll throw out like, just with everything that's happening now, I'll throw out a
Mm-hmm.
clear example. Like, I mean, all the studios that I work at are white owned. Maybe I need to open my own studio, but all the studios that I have worked at black owned studios before, but right now it just so happens that all the studios I work at are white owned, and I have one studio that sends me an email, right, saying, well, we don't really like to get involved in controversial matters. We rather stay out of them. But if you do decide to post anything on, like, if you guys are getting involved and you do decide to post anything on your timelines, here are some graphics that you can use, right? Again, only graphics that appeal to white people, like, black and white people holding hands, we're
Yeah.
all one, like that general, like, and this is an email I
Yeah.
got, like, telling me that this is what we think you should be using. Given everyone else on my team is I'm like I think there's two of us, two black instructors on the team, but everybody else is white. So in case those white people want to post, this is what we recommend you post, right? That's one studio. And I was a little bit like, I'm looking at this message and thinking, number one, I'm on your team. Why are you not getting involved? Like, why are you not speaking up? And number two, why are you recommending what people should be posting, right? Okay. But anyway, I have to like push that message to the side and not, like, try not to get too upset. And then I have another studio owner who reaches out to me, and she's not reaching out saying, oh, I feel so sorry and I don't know what to do, but she's reaching out, and saying, Alexa, I know there's a lot going on. I want you to know that I'm here for you. I support you. I am, you know, like I'm outraged by what's happening. It's not okay, and we must continue to work until things like this don't happen anymore, right?
Yeah.
And then she sends another email, you know, like I think I posted something about a course that was going on, like somebody who was offering a course, and she didn't have to tell me, you know, like she didn't have to say anything about it, but she says, yeah, I just took that course. It was amazing. I would definitely recommend it as well. Not her emailing me and saying, listing out all the ways she's a good person and what she has done, and you
Yeah.
know, like waiting for me to say thank you for doing that, but just saying, yeah, you know, I love that you posted that course because I just took it and I think it's great. And I feel like there's such a difference in that communication. You know, she's not trying to come and present herself as the good white woman. She is like trying to say, I'm working on it, you know, and I've got your back if you need anything.
So here's my take on, because
Yeah.
I feel there's a lot of things that have been said. So
Mm-hmm.
the first one, I remember Megan, just real quick, you were saying, what does if I remember correctly, it had to do with what does the immediacy sound like? And I agree with you. Immediacy really is a very personal thing. So you might not feel that your life is immediately threatened in XYZ place while somebody else might feel different about it. So really, and you're absolutely right, Megan, it has to do with well, who saw it, how many clicks, and everything else. You know, how do you feel personally about it? It has to do with what's being put on the media, who's getting the media, you know, who's getting the media outrage, etc. So we absolutely agree on that. Where a lot of lives are being suppressed, a lot of lives are being killed, and no one says anything because you know it's not fantastic enough for the news. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, in and of itself is a terrible, terrible thing. Going back to what studios could do, so I remember someone asked me a very similar question where, you know, what do you do if you don't know where the black yoga teachers are? You know, you don't know them, and you know you've been operating as mostly, you know, as you know, predominantly white the whole time through your business. So what now? Here's the reality of things. When you were opening your studio, if you made your announcement that you were opening your studio, making a call to all the yoga teachers out there, did you do a targeted call? Because it's too easy to say, oh, you know, I don't know them. Well, we don't know everything. I don't know everything. You don't know everything. The fact that we're black doesn't mean that we know everything about black lives, as a matter of fact. And we all have different opinions. But when you were making a call out for yoga teachers, did you ask those teachers who they knew? Or did you just go with what was easiest, which was to just pack up the teachers that reached out to you that already, at least I'll speak again, speaking from Ottawa, where Ottawa, it's no offense to these folks, but it's usually a clique it's a little clique of yoga teachers that teach at every single studio in Ottawa. Every now and again you get the other person, but it's really a clique of very popular, very good,
Mm-hmm.
again, not taking anything away from that, but very good teachers that are teaching in all of our Ottawa studios. If we have 10 studios, you will see that teacher on the roster at those 10 studios
Yes.
and the
Yes.
local teachers. So my
Mm-hmm.
question to those studios is, why didn't you ask them who they knew that
Mm-hmm.
was there? You can't know everything, but they might.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sending your ad out and you're saying, you know, we're looking for teachers, are you specific about what kind of teachers you're looking for? A lot of studios tend to think, as a matter of fact, not just studios, a lot of people tend to think that it's not politically correct to
Mm-hmm.
ask for a person of a specific demographic. That's not true. Why, putting aside the race, why do you think that plus size individuals don't join our studios?
Yeah.
They
That's
usually,
another whole top. That's another.
I know it's a whole other topic, but I'm just trying to bring
No, no.
some,
That's yeah.
yeah. So they don't join our regular studios, and I say regular in quotes because there's no such thing as, not. They don't join our studios because they don't see themselves there. And the reason why they don't see themselves there is because the studios make a point to not go out of their way to hire them.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's not palatable for their otherwise fit, svelte looking
Mm-hmm.
clients. And it doesn't speak to what their business wants to put out there as their brand. Likewise, why do studios not necessarily hire brown, black people? It's because their audience is majority white. And so they're not sure. They're
Yep.
sitting there thinking, oh, well, I don't want to say in my ad that I'm looking for
Mm-hmm.
black people because I don't want to offend my white people who might think that it's not right to say black. I don't know too many black people that feel offended being called black with a capital B. So
Well,
I'm saying,
I do think.
actually, just to finish, when when a movie is being made and they're asking for a specific actor, they're asking for auditions, they are very specific about what they want. They had a
Mhm.
vision. They would like to
Yes.
have
Mm-hmm.
a black woman with between the ages of this and this who looks like this and this and this. Why is it not offensive there? And why is it offensive when it's the yoga studio asking? If the yoga studio with clarity says this is not a diversity hire, we genuinely want to make our, like there's no limit to how many words you can use or how much explanation you can have. Say it.
Mm-hmm.
Say it. Say it. You know what? Acknowledge the fact that you are a predominantly white studio. You're tired of being a predominantly white
Mm-hmm.
studio. Would like to be more welcoming by saying we would like,
Yes.
for a better word, we would like more color, but be intentional about it. It's not about, we invite everyone. You're not inviting
Yeah,
everyone. If you
don't like I was about to say the wording is very important, right? The
Yes,
word I think the wording of inviting people is very important. And one thing I spoke about this week, like I mean, even though there was so much I didn't say properly, one thing I did speak about was the fact that I feel like every yoga studio that's out there, and it's not just because I'm in the Pilates world, so it's not just yoga. It's like
yes,
all the small studios feel that people are not applying. Like I think the immediate thought is people are not applying because they can't afford it, or they can't afford to take the certification, or black people just can't afford to do yoga or Pilates, and
that's
that's
a
why they're not
stereotype.
doing it. Well, but I think that's what happened. Like I think people think that people are either not applying or not showing up, or we can't find the teachers. They don't exist because they can't afford it, right? I think that's generally because what I see out there is people putting out these fairly offensive. Well, I find them offensive anyway. Um, we are trying to be more diverse. We now have scholarships, right? Like and I feel like what you said is absolutely correct. Go out there, make sure you don't word it like you're trying to do charity work. Like make
Yes,
sure that whenever if you're hiring someone, like you're opening spots, you have spots at your studio, and you wanna open them up to non-white people. So,
yes,
yes, you're
very
looking,
specific.
yeah, just be like specific, and don't say, like don't make it a charity drive.
It's charity work.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. We and Megan, who's I think still here, will
Yeah.
actually appreciate it. So we have a festival in Ottawa that
Mhm.
just encompasses all the Ottawa wellness industry, and it's a great festival. I personally have never attended because I choose to not afford a festival that per day will cost me a
Yeah.
month, first of all.
Yeah.
But and at some point, they made a call out for teachers to apply to teach at said festival.
Hmm.
And like I said, it's a huge festival. Everybody loves going there. So they put a call out there. Hey, all teachers apply. I've been a teacher for 2 years. I know people. I know other black meditation teachers, wellness, that have been doing what they're doing in their niche circles for quite some time. And I felt hesitant to apply. And I asked myself, well, why? So I don't necessarily have the same skills as this person, as that person, but I'm bringing me. Like I have
Hmm.
my very own set of, I'm bringing my unique presence, my unique um, way of teaching to that yoga space, that wellness space. Why am I not applying? And the very simple reason why I was not applying, to be honest, was because I just didn't feel like being the only black chick. They have been predominantly white.
Amen. Amen. I mean,
I know for a fact that there's
mhm.
at least one person that I know who said that she has been emailing them every year, every year, telling them, hey, let's be more diverse. But I did not apply because I felt it would be a waste of my time because I'm not one of the popular teachers. And why am I not one of the popular teachers? Because I don't teach at the popular studios. And why do I not teach at the popular studios? Because they only hire that clique.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that is majority white.
And
So
mhm.
just real quick,
Yeah,
I
yeah, go ahead. Mhm.
have to apply because I somehow have a preconceived notion that they're not going to take me because I'm not the popular one, and I'm not the popular one because I mean go back and extrapolate and all whatnot. Well, essentially because I'm black in Ottawa.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I sit there and I tell myself, well, why am I putting sticks in my own wheels? I will apply. I applied. And in my application, I was telling them to do something different. The
Mhm.
fact that you're not the popular teacher does not mean that you're not the good teacher.
Mhm.
I challenged them and I said, hey, I'm not even doing this for myself. I just want to see the people that I know be hired. So I told all my black friends, all the all the wellness people that I knew, I put it on Instagram and said, seriously, people, at the same time, there's also an onus on us to
Yes.
get out of our, I mean, we're always in a discomfort zone, or we're always uncomfortable because we're the minority. But I was reaching out and saying, hey, be even more uncomfortable and do
Mhm.
what you thought you could not do by applying to that
Mhm.
festival and saying, hey, this is what I can bring. I want to be a teacher there.
Mhm.
Unsurprisingly, none of them got it. We all had a very petty moment on Instagram, in the background going, side eye, surprise, surprise, we didn't get it. And, for better or for worse, this festival had to get canceled this year because of COVID-19. So
Yeah.
maybe now they'll get another chance at doing better because, again, their call out was very general. But when you're getting applications from the popular teachers versus the less popular teachers, there's already a disparity. It's not going to work. You're of course going to go with the one that's going to attract supposedly attract more of an audience.
Yeah.
But what is the audience? The majority white audience. So if you pick the less popular but equally good teacher of color, what you're saying to your audience is, hey, you don't have to be the mega superstar of teachers. We see you, we hear you. Come. And what happens now to your festival? People like me say, hey, this chick is teaching. I have gone out of my way to go to Black women's classes. I've gone out of my way to attend an Asian woman's class just because I was looking to be taught by someone who's not white, just
Yeah.
because I was looking to support him, her, they in
Mhm.
their journey being a wellness, a wellness fitness instructor.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And I know for a fact that people of color, and again, people of color, it's a melting pot, I get that, but I know for a fact that we Black people very often would go out of our way to support one of ours, and that support goes a long way in terms of how the studio is portrayed then later.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that fact is for sure. Like like. But I was also going to speak to like I've been to several different festivals and events, and when I go to events that where I see a variety of people, I always and this where I just see a variety. Like I see white people, I see black people, I see Asian people. I see South America. I see Latinos. Like it's when I see people from across the board, I feel more comfortable.
I
You know,
do.
yes. Um, and anytime I'm in a space that feels like it is exclusive to anyone, I start wondering where are the other people? Like where did all like why did I see them at that event, but I don't see them here, you know? Um, And I remember that there was one fest, and I've only taught at one festival, probably for all the reasons that you have spoken about. It's just not worth my time to go there
Actually, just real quick,
and
just to say which festival ours was, because I see Megan here
oh,
asking me. It's City of Om. Like,
yeah.
and as much as I'm not going to call out studios, but very specifically, City of Om is the only festival that we
Yeah.
have here in Toronto. Anyways, go ahead.
And just like, a lot of times when you teach at festivals, you have to go out of your way to get to the festival. And it's usually in a place that it's set up somewhere, on a big field that is nowhere close to anything. You have to go out of your way to get there. It's usually something that in terms of payment, I mean, I don't know if it was just this one that I attended, but the pay is not really
Uh,
different from, what I get in a regular class. So to drive that extra distance and go somewhere and all I'm doing is making myself palatable to a white audience, right? Like I'm because I know, like, if I go there and I don't play like I don't know, I'm trying to think of, I don't play music in class now anyway, but playing all the indie artists that everybody loves, and saying all the spiritual things that people love to hear.
yeah.
Like, then I'm not catering to
You're
that
not being
crowd
true
that's
to
there.
yourself.
Yeah, I go there and I'm like thinking, okay, what is going to appeal to these people? How can I make a class? Because I do want to make a class great for anybody who comes to my class. But I know that if I just go and teach the style that I normally teach, this crowd is not going to like it. So that's why, I mean, I did one festival, and after that I kind of thought, I'd rather just stick to the people that my students who come to me on a regular basis, that I have a relationship with, and we're doing the actual work that we're supposed to do, not just doing some fluff that is, making me more appealing to this group. But then the thing is, if I don't make myself appealing, and I mentioned this as well this week, you go somewhere, you don't make yourself appealing, what you get is a lot of almost, why was she like that? Like you said, she is very intimidating. She's very, like she seemed a little bit angry. She's, like, so it's a lot of effort to have to make yourself palatable. And I know Shirley asked, like, up, earlier on, if studios censor people of,
They
if they studio
do.
black instructors. They may not come necessarily and say, what you said was, don't say this, this, and this. They don't give you like written guidelines, but they might, like, they might say, oh, I heard of something that happened today, and that's interesting. And why, like, that must, well, with me, it's always like, oh, that must be your German side coming out, to the point where I even joke,
Oh,
yeah, to the point where I even joke about it now. I'm like, well, that must be my German side, like, because I'm a fairly direct person. But, like, people say it like, oh, that must have been your German side. Like, yeah, I knew a Russian lady once who also was very, very direct, but it's basically saying, don't say that again. So we
yeah.
don't necessarily get told you're not allowed to say this or that, but you do get hinted at, like, what you
Yeah.
didn't come across very well. It was a little bit offensive. So
Yeah.
so it's
Real quick, Alexa, I want to address because there's a lot of conversation that's
yeah.
happening in the group, and we've had these conversations before, but we'll put it out. I'm putting it out there
Yes.
on video. So we're talking about, well, why are we pushing to be included in festivals that don't actually, for lack of a better word, that don't actually care about us?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we organize our own thing? And I have a two-pronged answer to that. The first one is, let's totally just do our own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go make our own festivals, and if it starts off with 5 people, it's 5 people. It's five
Yes.
people more than we had, and you know what? One day it's gonna go big, yes,
Yep.
let's do
Yep.
our own thing. I totally agree. The part where I am willing to say, why will I keep on pushing, is because it's not right, and I hate being excluded.
Mm-hmm.
I hate being excluded, and not only do I hate being excluded, but I hate being excluded from a space that claims that it's inclusive. And so I will persist in forcing myself in those spaces up until someone over there clearly tells me that, oh, well, Kethy, seriously, we really cannot have you there. And once they do, a petty part of myself will do everything in my power to make sure that everybody knows that they're not truly inclusive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Call me petty, that is my battle, and so that's my personal opinion about it. Yes, let's do our own thing. There is zero reason why I should not feel included in the yoga wellness space in Ottawa, and
Yes.
I refuse to be, to constantly be suppressed about it and to just say, well, fine, go do your own thing. No, no, I refuse for the Ottawa wellness space to keep on, the predominantly white Ottawa yoga space to keep on doing its own thing, thinking that they're doing the right thing. I
Mhm.
refuse. That's why
And
I want to keep on doing myself, and it's tiring work. I get that.
yes.
It's probably the reason why, talking about TV, I brought up an example. It's the reason why BET literally exists, because
Mhm.
Black people in the States
Yes.
just get tired of trying to include themselves into spaces and just like, you know what, F it, here's BET. In spite of
But
BET, just give me a second, in spite of BET existing, it doesn't change the fact that Black people do want to be heard in spaces that should be available to them, which is why we're not running for the we're not running for the Oscars, we're not fighting for the Oscars, but goddamn should we be included. So the
and
same
we're talking
way,
about yoga here. We're not talking about
exactly.
I don't know,
It's
a
not even a
gun club
meritocracy
or
thing.
yeah, we're
There's
talking
no
about yoga.
all
Yoga
this
is supposed to be yoga is supposed to be inclusive. It is supposed to be inclusive.
yes,
It's not supposed to be exclusive to anyone. Um, and if it starts to become exclusive, then it's no longer yoga. Like
exactly,
it's like
exactly.
it's like starting to it's like preaching the message of work on yourself so that you can see the connection between yourself and the entire universe, but not that part of it. Like that's not how yoga works. Yoga is, the
Exactly.
practice of yoga is supposed to teach you that you are not just an individual, that you are part of a greater whole. Um, so if your studio is not teaching you that, or is not trying to actually achieve that, then they're also not doing yoga. They're doing
Yes,
something else. Yeah.
exactly.
So I feel like
So in
yeah.
in light of that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying to each their own mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I know for a fact that there's some folks that I know that are like, you know what, no, I'm gonna go teach at the Black only space, and I'm fine with it. And I'm saying, you know what, more power to you.
Mm-hmm.
There's some folks that say, well, you know what, I'm gonna keep on fighting and to get us in that predominantly white space, and more power to you. We each have our journeys, and we each have our own mental space to take care of ourselves. I'm not going to start fighting a fight that gets me miserable here at my house all the time. I don't have time.
No, no,
However,
yeah.
I do have energy to call out people that are not for right now.
They're not doing the right thing. And if you guys have not seen, Kethy's last post, I think I shared it yesterday on my story. If you've not seen her last post, with the stats of the actual statistics, and I love that because I have never seen one with the statistics of how many. I think it was the amount of people of color that are at each
People
studio.
of
I have never seen those statistics. And while like I feel like, okay, so a lot of times when these statistics come up, people, like people want to have like a 50-50, and that would be great. However, I do recognize that some communities are not made up of, 50%
I
Black people,
agree.
right? But you should at least have the same representation at your studio as you do of Black people within your community.
Yes.
And another post that I kind of put up yesterday or shared yesterday was that, creating these spaces is intentional. Whether
Yes.
you realize that you're doing it, or whether you realize your intentions or not, there's an intention behind only catering to one group of people. Going back to the festivals, so I did say I taught at one festival. However, I only found out about that festival, like it's almost, sometimes I feel like all white people get the communication, and the Black people don't get the communication, and then it is like a surprise
Because
as
they
to
don't think
why.
we're
Yeah.
interested.
And yoga is just one space where this has happened to me, where like where I'm a yoga teacher, everybody knows it. I'm one of the few at the different studios. However, I have to wait for my white colleague to decide to share her communication with me in order to find out what she got emailed directly. you know. So nobody's trying to find out my email address. Nobody's trying to find out. They're passing it through other white teachers, and then the white teacher takes the great time slots, and whatever is left is what I have to take. You know.
Ah,
So that's another
I have
reason
so much
why,
to
like,
say.
that's another reason why, like, when it comes to some of these events, I'm like, I don't really care too much for being part of them, because I don't want the 7 a.m. You get the 10 a.m. when everybody's awake and wants to show up, and then I
Mm,
get the 6 a.m. time slot where two people come, and then I'm the teacher who didn't pull, right? Like, I'm the teacher who didn't
yes,
get enough people in, but I was either
yes,
teaching at 6 a.m. or teaching at 9 p.m. at night, like the last time slot. So
yes.
so I feel like a lot of, and like I said, this has happened to me with children's activities, with, where I'm like, have you guys gotten the email? Like, what's going on with these activities? Oh yeah, we all got the email. You didn't? Oh, we must have gotten your email address wrong, or something like that. So with a lot of events, what happens is, first of all, let's send it to our friends, and then when our friends can't do whatever is left, we will
Yeah.
pass on to, and I think that is something, everybody, there needs to be a list of everybody, and everybody needs to get the communication.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually,
but
just real quick to your point. So you mentioned that, okay, so your white counterpart gets the email, and then she, they then send it to their white counterpart. And I'm willing to say, someone mentioned it's a system, and I'll say why it's a system.
Mhm.
So let's talk about Ottawa for a split second, which will definitely relates to the festival that you attended. And so in Ottawa, a studio opens, the studio reaches out to their friend who,
Yeah.
is white. Their friend reaches out to their friend, and so on and so forth. And then the studio, and then all these friends look at, they've been so used to only seeing white folks that they don't immediately think
Mhm.
of the non-black folks that are there, that are out there, because they're so used to their clique, they're so used to, so your person is just looking at, oh yeah, you know what, let me look at their list last year, and they're looking at their roster last year, and it's mostly white, and for some absurd reason she decides, and it's not really so much absurd, it's mostly that that person subconsciously decides that Alexa is not going to be interested, because subconsciously she doesn't actually,
Yeah.
it's not intentional, it's just subconsciously decides, well, Alexa's not going to be interested,
Mhm.
and then only tells her other white teachers.
Mhm.
And then my beef with this whole, being given the less interesting slot is actually what I forgot. I mean, there's no time to talk about everything that I have issues with. So studios right now are reaching out saying, oh, you know what, yeah, let's do more, let's do scholarships, let's do what's this classes? Let's do karma classes and everything else. These karma classes never happen at popular times.
Yeah. Mhm.
These karma classes, we recently have, these karma classes always happen at a time slot where no one wants to come.
Yeah.
You have, they're karma class. Literally, some of these things are karma classes after karma classes. As in,
So
there's
I might
the
pause it. It's
main.
almost 12, so it's probably gonna, if it cuts off,
Um,
I'm gonna bring it. I'm
ah,
gonna come back on, just because I want to listen to the last of your, I want to listen to this point. And there's a question here that I absolutely want to address by le premier.
le
Or
air.
yeah, le premier. Yeah. I want to see that.
Ottawa represents.
Yes.
No,
But go on. Continue what
no,
you were
no.
saying.
Oh, okay, no, it's just there's where was I going with this? All this to say, it's just we're not exactly like you said. We're given the less popular things as a freebie.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that it makes sense business wise.
Mm-hmm.
It also is going counter it counters what we're trying to do, because it also immediately tells the clientele that that specific slot is less important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's subconsciously we see it. You look at a yoga, you look at a yoga studio
Mm-hmm.
schedule, and you think to yourself, okay, I get off work at 5:30. Am I really going to attend the non-popular 9 p.m. class? In some
Yeah.
studios it works because the 9 p.m. class is taught by a popular teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But if that slot has never existed, and then you decide to put in Kethy, who has never taught at a popular studio, and nobody knows her, nobody is going to know her because nobody usually attends that
Yeah.
9 p.m.
Yeah.
class,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so
So I'm just trying to go back on so I can finish the conversation with Kethy. Um, Sorry, Kethy. I knew it was going to cut off right there just because of, Instagram has that 1 hour time limit and we had hit it. And I know this conversation can go on and on. Let me add you on. All right. There we go. Again, I can see your living room, which is very nice, by the way.
is this me now?
Yes, that's you. Yes.
Oh,
So
my goodness.
so yes, agreed with everything that you said. I know we lost some of the comments in the last video.
Sorry.
And if you had like a question that you wanted us to answer or address, please do type it again just so that we have it. Just because I'm trying to remember everything that everybody wrote, and I can only remember the one question about Black people supporting Le Premier. Said he was wondering why, like he said, if more Black people supported Black yoga teachers, and I feel like that's another one where I feel it's, again, I have two perspectives on that, because like you said, you go out of your way to find a Black, work with the Black teacher. And I know for sure, especially in the space that I'm in now, there are people who change their schedules to come to my class. Like if they know that I'm on a day that I'm working, and I appreciate each and every one of those people, because like I said, even when it's bad for me to say this, but when I do see a Black student who comes to class, again, it's the same thing. I'm like, I'm just so happy you're here. Please don't go. Please come.
Come back.
Because it's so beneficial. Like it's so good. I want to see you like gain all these the advantages that this system has to offer, this workout system has to offer you, that all these other people are getting, but very few Black people seem to be getting. So yes, same thing. So why, so again, speaking to the point of why is it that, why is there the feeling that maybe Black people are not supporting their own? One I think is knowledge, just not even knowing that there was a Black teacher at the studio, because that is not, for some reason, is not promoted. It's not in the graphics or on the Instagram page. I feel like there was one studio that, this whole thing of, and this is way before everything that happened recently. There was a studio that came out, very well intentioned, I'm sure, put up a post and said, yes, we understand this post will be, like a whitewashing post, but we are trying to make our community more diverse. And it just, she wrote a really long post about, like they don't have diversity at the studio, and it's been brought up to them, so they're aware of it and they want to make a change. And again, it's that whole, I'm the savior, I'm coming in and I'm going to save the situation, versus checking, why is it that you were in that situation in the first place? And I went to her Instagram, and I looked through the whole Instagram. I will tell you this, she didn't even have pictures of white people with brown hair on there. Like it was literally every single person, or if there was a picture of a brown haired white person, it was a picture of the back of their head, not of their face, right? And I'm like, so you are not even giving space to your own people who don't have the same hair color as you. So I mean, like, I can't even start with like, how are you going to give somebody who's not white space on your page, right? So the first step is maybe in your marketing, diversify your marketing, right? Like show that you have everybody at your studio. And if that marketing is out there, or if I'm looking for a studio in tell me the name of your town again, in Quebec, like if I'm looking for a studio somewhere there in Gatineau, is that where you are? Yes. If I'm looking for a studio, I feel like you moved at some point, because I don't think have you always been there?
No, so that's why the
Yeah,
whole
I'm like, it's throwing me off so much. Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's like throwing me off. But
Right there.
if I'm looking for a studio in Gatineau, right? And I'm like, okay, I have like 5 studios that come up. I go to your website. And all I see, it's not, and not even just all I see is white faces. All I see is white faces with blonde hair and
I'm not
white
going.
outfits, you know? Um, and
There's a studio that has their pictures just like that.
you know, everything is beige. Like every single thing is beige on your page. I'm like, and I'm there and I'm trying to look for the little bit of brown and black, and it's like I can't see it. Um, it doesn't make me feel like that's where I want to go, right? So I think
Intentional.
marketing is really important. If you have an instructor, if you have because I also don't want to exclude. I feel like the same thing happens to instructors of color who are not black. Like they too don't always get showcased. Maybe not quite as badly as black
No,
instructors,
no.
but it does. I witness it in yoga studios. I'm always wondering where all the Indian people are. Um, you know, seeing as
That's
it
a
is,
whole.
that's a whole nother conversation. But I don't want to pretend like this is
No,
solely a black issue when it
it's
comes to
not.
studios, because it's not.
It's
So it's important that if you are hiring people and they are there, or if you have students, that they are in your marketing, that they're in your, like, that you don't pick and choose and exclude the few that are there, because
actually,
Mhm.
Alexa, I'm willing.
Yeah.
I'm willing to say it's not even just about pick and choosing. It is actually about
Mhm.
picking and choosing.
Yeah.
I'll say how. Um, Again, going back to the festival that
Mhm.
that did not happen due to
Yeah.
COVID-19, when you put out your ad about everybody apply,
Yeah.
you have to be reasonable of the fact that everybody is not going to apply. So if you receive 50 applications, um, I'm not for quotas. I really am not for quotas. But if you're intentional about it, you will make
Yeah.
5 spots intentionally for people of color. And so you'll put 5 spots out there for people of color. And once you do, you will select those that fit the you are a good teacher criteria out
Mhm.
of that. So
Mhm.
it's not about just giving the job to every Jack and Jill that rolls up and says, "Oh, I'm a person of color." That's not what
Mhm.
we're asking for. We're not a charity. I know I'm good. She knows they know they're good. We don't
Mhm.
need charity. We're saying that if you're intentional about it, you will
Mhm.
make intentional space for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
As in, you know what? You're looking for 20 teachers. Well, you're gonna leave 5 spots open because
Mhm.
again, we're a minority, so let's not pretend that it's gonna be 50-50. It's not. You know that. But you're
Mhm.
gonna leave 5 spots open for teachers of color. And you will not give those 5 spots away until you have the teachers of color that meet your standards of excellence. And we are out there.
And when you get
Yeah.
them, pay them. That's another thing.
Yes.
Pay
Get
them
them
what you're
paid.
paying the other teachers. Because
That's it.
I
It's
can't
about
tell you the amount of
increasing.
times that I find out. I mean, like, I feel like now I go out and I ask for what I want, like, and I say I just can't teach if I don't get that. Um, but I can't tell you the amount of times in the past where, like somebody has said, well, this is the maximum that we pay. And I find out a few weeks later that somebody else is getting twice what I'm getting paid, Um, so and now I generally, like I generally discuss too. I tell people this is what I think the minimum is that you should ask for,
Mhm.
because like it's what you need to, it's what you deserve to get.
And
um
performing.
and I think, yeah, so I think when you're getting people of color on, don't pay them less. Like, don't pay them, like, pay them what you're paying, like at least the average rate of what you're paying the other instructors.
You know what? I'll tell
um
you about the pay. Pay them what you would like them to tell other people so that more people come to
yeah,
you.
yeah. Yeah, thank you. Because,
Because we all talk
yeah,
about it. Pay
yeah.
them when they look at it, they can
Mhm,
go to their other friends and go,
mhm.
damn, you should join us.
Yep,
Pay
yep.
them something that they will be proud to tell other people, and you will be proud to be that studio.
Yeah.
We're talking about intention. We're talking about how I mentioned in my video about how companies target their audience.
Yeah.
The other day, I watched an ad, and that's a very real example. I watched an ad by Dove, and we all know Dove is always trying to be inclusive and all and that, and I love it. It's great. Um, and at some point, they bring up this black chick, and I noticed because again, Dove and black people, I was like, "Ooh." So they bring up this black chick, and she pulls her hair out, and she goes, "When was the last time they took care of hair like this?" And I was like, "Good effort, Dove. Her hair is not 4C." And I know I'm being picky here, but Dove would never hire me to get, I mean, you and I have very different hair textures.
Yes, yes. No, of
Dove is
course.
not going to be hiring me as their Dove, as their Dove ambassador. You know why? Because my hair still doesn't fit the profile. So, I mean, I had to
I
give
don't
them
even
a
want to
little,
talk about the amount of times when I know that people have hair like you and I see them in an ad and I'm like, where's your hair? Why are you wearing that wig?
just, I mean, for real, I'm not saying I have the
and
nappiest hair
and
available,
and
but don't tell me
you
that.
know in that moment that you got asked to wear a wig, and not even a wig that resembles your regular hair, because sometimes I understand lighting can burn your normal hair, so people wear wigs, but you're wearing a wig that doesn't look like yours. But I don't want to go too far, because I see mindfulness Megan bringing up a lot of interesting points, and I see a couple of questions here too. I kind of just want to so it's hard to justify going, because you question whether you will fit in and whether this place, yes. So I think we talked a little bit about festivals not being, they're just not catering to the needs. They're
It's
not
just,
even advertising to people of color or black people.
yeah.
And because of that, when you go there, it tends to be very white. And yes, and then you go there and you're like, well, I have to make myself palatable, and then you're not being you, and it's an effort that's really uncomfortable. But
Yes.
I also want to talk about, sorry, there was something about self-care. So this brings up another important consideration. Wellness offerings for by people of color is healing, self-care, and protection. Just like any other community, it is, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be included in or have access to those spaces. And I feel like, especially, it took me a while after moving here. Like I said, I've never experienced the reactions and I don't think I have been as traumatized as I have been here by what happens to black people. I'm not even just I'm not going to include all people of color in that, because it's just
Yeah.
specifically black people. And
Or black, or people like
that's
that.
why I brought up the fact that my existence here, my
Yeah.
reality here, is definitely very different from when I lived in other countries.
Mhm.
um and I think to myself, like, I cannot imagine, like, from birth, not having the knowledge of a different type of existence, right? And this is my only, I can't even imagine how mentally draining it is from childhood through, I mean, teenage years, for this to be the only option,
Yeah.
and constantly have these incidences that people seem to be ignoring or doing nothing about, and
Mhm.
pretending that, well, maybe it was your fault. Like, maybe it was.
Right.
I mean, with George Floyd, we can clearly, like, it is clear to all of us anyway, right? It is clear to all of us anyway, like black people, that wasn't the person who got murdered. It wasn't their fault. But I know, like, so many times since I've been here, I mean, people are like, well, did he have drugs? Did he, maybe this questionable? And now I feel like the reason why there's such a strong reaction to George Floyd is because it was unquestionably wrong.
Irrefutable.
And it now starts to make you realize that all those other times where you turned a blind eye possibly could have been unquestionably wrong as well, right?
Uh,
So I think the people who need healing the most are black people, and they're the ones who are being excluded the most. And like that. So it's, so yes. So, and to mindfulness Megan, like, yoga studios should be going out there, and they truly want to be doing yoga. Their main, I don't know, reach or marketing should be to people who have been traumatized the most. And then let me see what else she said. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say to that, but
well, to that, I'm going to say, in the last few weeks, there's a lady. I'll
Hmm.
call her lady because I like calling people ladies. There's a lady who has been doing mindfulness work for Black people
Hmm.
exclusively.
Is this a
And
black woman or a white woman?
yes, so she's a Black woman. Yes, so a
Okay.
Black woman who's been
Yes.
doing uh, work for exclusively for
Hmm.
Black. And there's all these spaces, all these pods that are being created. I know Megan does that as well. There's all these pods that are being created for us to be able to heal on our own, at our own time, with people that look, feel like us and everything else. And those are great, and those are to be promoted by everyone because it is hard having to explain yourself over and over and over. It is hard having to um, explain your pain, having to, you know, and I'll speak about my experience in one of those spaces and the sheer importance of it. We had already spent about a week and a half in the, in the trauma of
Hmm.
George Floyd video going around. We had already spent quite some time screaming, at least for those 2 weeks, screaming about the outrage, about the hurt. It was also after Ahmaud Arbery. It was after Brianna. It was just a lot of hurt. And I'm unfortunately, for better or for worse, I love being on social media. I'm constantly there. I'm a little bit addicted to it. I'm constantly on my phone.
We love you being there.
Yeah, I'm constantly on Instagram and everything else. And so I felt bombarded but helpless I couldn't help but look. And this chick comes up and she says, this Black chick comes up, she says, you know what, here, Sunday, let's roll, let's have a meditation session together. And it was very simple. I'm talking about like it was just mad simple. And yet I shed a tear because I was legit tired. I
Yes.
didn't need to say anything. I was just surrounded by Black folks and you could feel, yes, it's on Zoom, but you could feel our weariness, just our sheer weariness over the last 2 weeks. And
Yes.
that's on top of our own personal lives. Like we all have things going on. But I'm talking about the Ahmaud Arbery just murder, just, it
Running.
just,
I mean,
I
like,
just,
I know he was running, but
myself,
it's a
what? Like it could have been me, it could have been my brother.
yes,
And you
because
think it's
we
far,
all go running or walking.
you think it's far away, but it's not. Like these are things that, on top of your own life
So I
here,
see
your
somebody
own,
laughing, and I'm not sure what that's about.
your own little problems in life, you sit there and you're like, damn,
Mm-hmm.
and so she creates this space, and in this space, at some point, she says, while we're quietly lying down, or at least I was, and she says, close your eyes and think about your ancestors. Think about your grandmother, your grandfather, your great grandfather, your great 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 grandmother, and think about how much they love you
Mm-hmm.
and how proud they are of what you're doing. And I thought to myself, that was the best visualization I'd ever had. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I don't think anybody else would have been able to make me feel what I did if it wasn't for a Black person
Mm-hmm.
telling me that my people were literally standing behind me, that I'm standing as one person here, but that there are thousands, millions standing behind me. And she took that on from a Maya Angelou poem. But I mean to say that the power that gave me in that moment, I was able to just shed my burdens, all those burdens of that week, like all the
Mm-hmm.
extra, just the extra sensorization of the week.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to lay it down and reach out to my non-Black friends from a place of love rather than bitterness. That when I reached out to them and I said, hey, do you know what's going on? It wasn't, do you know what's going on? How do you not know what's going on? Girl, I'm not talking to you anymore. It came from friends. Do you know what's going on? I need to talk about it. And I
Mm-hmm.
need you to listen. And I know you will listen. Maybe you didn't know how to reach out to me, but here I am saying, okay, fine, I'll do the work of reaching out. but I need you to listen to me. And that's why these spaces are important,
Yeah.
because we just need somewhere to be able to just unroll our burdens without saying anything.
But you know, I
Because
mean,
because we need that instructor to be able to get it right away.
mhm.
And those spaces are important, but at the same time, I say, and I again say, I refuse to have what predominantly white wellness spaces think that they don't need to do more in the name of, well, you can go to that other space. No, I should be included. You are a wellness space.
And
So I
especially,
should,
mhm. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. No, no,
no, no,
I
no.
absolutely agree with everything you have to say. And you know, I've been sitting here thinking about it. I mean, both of us are migrants from, you know, from Cameroon.
Yeah.
Um, and and I know for a fact, like in Cameroon, there's, you know, the US has and Canada had this for a really long time too. I don't know if they still do it, but the US has a lottery where it actively goes out in all over the world and asks people to give up their life in their countries and move over to the US. You know, like they play a lottery where they're actually actively going out and getting people to come here. And I feel like if you are this society, like this white, you know, like, well, I don't want to say this white country because it's not a white country, but this country has gone out and recruited people from around the world to come and live here. And you can't do that. You can't say, come and live, but be excluded from certain spaces. And I feel like when people say we need to go out and create our own, we were already in our, like, you know, like Kethy and I stayed there and created something there. I think I lost Kethy, so she might be coming back in. But yes, we could have stayed there and created something there if we wanted to create something that was our own. But there is this invitation to come and join our society. So if that invitation is there and you're here, and there should be no reason why certain spaces are exclusive to you. If you're coming, you're coming to be included in everything and not just in some, you know, parts of it. Let me see if I can get Kethy back on so I don't just ramble on by myself. But let me also go over some of the comments that you guys have put down here. I see yoga comes from religion and spirituality. It's not a tool. I need to understand that comment a little bit more, but I do have to disagree with the religion part. Yoga does not come from religion. In fact, you know, like even though yoga is associated with India now, you know, as people go back and, you know, learn history, they see that yoga was actually practiced in so many different parts of the world, and it just had different names. So while there's a spiritual aspect, or yoga helps you find your spirituality, I can't agree with the fact that it comes from religion, because there are religions that have used yoga to, you know, help their members connect better to whatever it was that the message that they were passing on. But yoga does not come from religion. So let's be really clear on that, because people all over I mean, you have Kemetic yoga that was practiced in Egypt. You have, I know people who come from the Kung Fu world. And that's just a different term for yoga in a different society. So no, yoga does not come from religion, if that's what you've been told. Joey Fitness, or Kate, says wellness is for everyone and everybody. I really appreciate you, Kate. You're absolutely right in that, and I think that's what we have to keep promoting. Let's see, Kethy, are you back in, Kethy? I don't know if you're back in, if you can join me. Let me see if I can add you on to the live. Let's see if you can come on. All right, there you go. Are you
Is it
back?
my living room?
I think so. Yes, your living room.
All right, back to me.
All right. I have, I
I
have to
was
go. I have to
listening.
go Google why that's happening for you. You know,
I
like
have no
so that I can
idea.
troubleshoot. I can troubleshoot the next time. I was just going over the comments. I don't know if you saw me
No,
doing that.
I heard you.
Says our ancestors didn't die in vain, and we're not alone. We all belong. Absolutely. I feel like I'm going to be friends with mindfulness Megan. after this conversation. She has been so, she has been
She's
bringing
awesome.
Pepe into the conversation the whole time. She has been adding Pepe.
Yes.
You know, let's see. So we've talked about so many different things. I don't even know. I'm trying to think of where we started and what would be a good place to end. Like what are your? So I can start with the my top. Let's say three things that I recommend to studios, and then you can probably add on to that. And you don't have to stay to three or you don't have to
Yeah.
just do as many as you want. But I'll say my top three things. I feel, personally, I feel like studio owners need to invest in some kind of anti-racism education. And I don't care if you think you're not a racist, in order to have the tools to know how to create a non-racist environment, you do need to invest in some kind of anti-racism education. And I posted a lot of anti-racism educators yesterday on my page. I'm starting to feel like I'm not like, this is not my job to be educating people as to where to find things that they can find on Google. You can also just Google the word anti-racism, and I guarantee people will
Pretty
come up.
much.
If you're on Instagram watching us now, you can just put in the hashtag anti-racism, and I'm pretty sure you will have educators come up. So find an educator who's offering a course.
Yeah.
My personal friend is Tina Strawn. I also, in the wellness space, I have Sonia Price Herbert, who offers workshops for studio owners as to how to make your space more anti-racist, or how to I don't want to say do inclusion and diversity, because I'm starting to learn that I don't really like that word so much. It's like another blanket statement, but she teaches you on how to make your space less white. So that's Sonia Price Herbert. So find someone who will educate you. And then my second point is, I'm guessing that once you're educated, there's so many things that you will stop doing anyway. There's so many things that you will no longer be doing. And probably the next 2 points that I'm going to give you are going to be part of that education. But like, when people do come to your studio, don't other them. Whether they're teachers or whether they're students, don't make them feel like they're a special population with special needs. They're just people coming into the studio who want to do whatever your studio is offering. And finally, I want to speak a little bit to white fragility. Address your white fragility. You don't need to cry every time and I've said this to people before. If I'm in a conversation with an African American and like a white person, and you start crying about the fact that you just realized your complicity in racism, or you just realized how horrible racism was, please stop. Just stop it. Stop crying. Don't tell us all the things that, don't center yourself. Don't make it, because once you start doing things, once you start showing your fragile side, you close off the dialogue, in terms of what the actual problem is. Then it becomes about comforting the white person, or it becomes about, telling you how great you are for all the great things that you have done to, your charity work or whatever it is. And we stop talking about what the actual issue is. So the three things is: go do a course, stop othering, and take care, deal with your white fragility so it stops coming up.
Yeah. The only other thing that, you've pretty much said everything, and the only thing that I would like to emphasize on is intention.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd like all of us, not just all of us, but really I'd like, the studios, the majority white audience of those studios, to focus their intention on why all this is important. So if your intention is to look diverse but not really be it, just so everybody knows, a disingenuous, something that doesn't feel genuine, everybody can come.
Yes.
And when you reach out to now one of us, now that it's become the popular thing to do, to reach out to to Black teachers, to non-white teachers, and etc., to give them opportunities. trust that we are watching your tone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just watching your tone, but we're also trying to see if you actually had a plan when you reached out to us. So is it just that you're reaching out to us real quick because, oh my gosh, I really need to do this right now before everybody, before I get
Yes.
you know, stoned by the, by the public opinion? Or did you really sit down and think, you know what, yeah, sure, I can do better, and I'll reach out to Kethy and say, hey, you know what, I have this, I have this thinly crafted plan. Do you mind working with me to, to flesh it out?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's not the same. I'm not the same. I'm not the same person. I'm one Black woman. I'm not standing for every other Black woman who might not want to do the work with you. I'm saying that I'm more than willing to do the work with you to craft plans that work for
Mm-hmm.
the betterment of our communities. And in that intention, I'd like non, I'd like white folks specifically to understand that it can never work at your disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
Including us can never be a disadvantage. And the simple reason is that if including us means that a group of white folks leave, you didn't need those people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't need those people. So I really, like, I got inspired by another post about this, who essentially said, if a bunch of white people decide to leave your studio and no longer be clients of your studio because you have decided to very intentionally focus yourself, publicly, intentionally, lovingly focus yourself on the minority, if they decide to leave you, you never needed them in the first place.
Yeah.
And never has there been an organization that ever got punished for being more diverse. All they ever did was flourish.
Amen. Amen. You have said it all. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and I hope that, my biggest hope is that, like this, when by the time my kids are my age, or even before then, that this will be a thing that is something that used to happen and it's not happening anymore. So I'm
We,
hoping
we,
it's,
we,
I love that we're having all these conversations, because um, like social media has really changed the game. I love that we're having all these conversations, and we're discussing all these topics, because I think as we discuss them, people listen. Even if it's just one or two people listen, and
it
from that
only took
listening, people learn. Yeah, it only takes one, right? It's just one, and the rest will eventually follow. So,
yeah,
like you said, it's like nothing bad happens from diversity.
now,
Like nothing. Um,
yeah,
Only good things. But yes, thank
um,
you so much, Kethy. I feel like I've held you for
thank you so
so
much,
long.
everyone.
But it was great for us to have this chat. I feel like we're gonna have to have another one at some point.
We will.
Um, yes, we will. We will. We definitely will. But yes, if you guys are not already following Kethy, I hope you follow her after this. Like, make sure she has so much. She has so much to say, and she's an amazing yoga teacher. So take class with her.
Thank you,
Yes,
Alexa.
email her. Email her to take a class. I know you do Zooms, so
We do.
get included on her Zoom group. So you don't even have to be in Gatineau to somebody says, Fit Mom to Be says, canceling my membership by using spirituality bypassing posts. I love you. Yes. you know um Thank you, Daisy, for being
Thank you
on.
so much
Yeah,
for having
for all of you who have been supportive, and who have been following, both of us, thank
me.
you guys
Yeah,
for your support.
thank you.
The Minimalist Yogi. So I feel like the Minimalist Yogi put up a comment earlier on. I don't know if it got lost in the last chat or not, but I'm hoping we answered everybody's questions. Um,
And if not, send us an email,
yes,
send us an email and we'll
send
talk
us a
about it. And
message. Um,
if anybody would have their question talked about in our stories, feel free and let us know and we can
yes.
talk about
And I want to say I'm saving these to my Instagram TV. They may not be on my actual feed. Like, this is a new thing on Instagram. So if it didn't happen today, call Instagram, because I tried. I tried to save the first one, I'm going to try to save the second one to Instagram TV, so it's going to be up there. And if we have another conversation, we can always kind of expand on the points. I'm hoping that the next conversation we have, we'll say, wow, we're already seeing all these changes and things are so amazing. Things
Yeah.
are changing and people are doing the right thing. And we're just coming back on here to say that, you guys are amazing for making those changes. Yeah, but thank you, Kethy, and I will be, we'll be in touch. We're in touch anyway, but we'll organize some more stuff, and who knows what's
Indeed.
on the list. Yes, yes. All right. See you
Bye,
soon.
everyone.
Bye. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Like Kethy said, that's a message, and have a wonderful Sunday. Bye.